It was the 1930s and not the best of times. The Great Depression dragged on. The swing of big bands kept the mood up in nightclubs across the country. Money was scarce, and weak banks failed, while strong ones would only lend to property owners. Working people were left out, or left to the usurious private lenders. In 1936, 20 Somerset neighbors banded together to create a banking alternative. On July 25th, they held their first directors' meeting of the Somerset Community Credit Union in the Pennington Drug Store on County Street. The drugstore served as temporary quarters for the new credit union directors who had a plan in mind. On December 17th, for the price of $650, construction began on a new credit union home. When the doors opened April 2, 1937, at 1275 County Street, the credit union became the first financial institution in Somerset with its own building. Any Somerset resident could join. At the first annual meeting on November 17, 1937, the 23 members present heard directors announce a dividend of 3.5%. The fledgling credit union soon attracted more members, and growth over the next few years was impressive. At the third annual meeting, the dividend increased to 4%, and loan limits increased from $200 to $300. The credit union's strong balance sheet enabled directors to up the loan limits to $800 in 1940. By the spring of 1941, the credit union could accommodate home and car buyers with 5% loans. Always financially prudent, the directors that year limited deposits to $25 per month to keep dividend obligations in balance with loan revenue. For the country, everything changed December 7, 1941. FDR called it a date that will live in infamy. The U.S. entered World War II the next day, and the nation turned its attention to winning the war and supporting the war effort. The credit union, along with financial institutions across the country, sold war bonds. By 1944, directors lifted all deposit restrictions, setting the stage for serious growth. Membership was extended to Swansea and Dighton. When the war ended, servicemen and women returned to building homes and families. In 1948, growth happily forced the move to a new office in the Cusick Building at 1100 County Street. The town of Somerset grew. With a population of about 5,000 and dotted with farms in the 30s, it became part of the national suburban migration in the 50s. The nuclear family was on TV, while school kids were ducking under desks in anticipation of nuclear war. The greater Somerset community continued to join the credit union. In 1953, the credit union moved to an office in the Lockhart Building at 1166 County Street and began full-time operation for the first time in its history. The magic milestone of $1 million in assets was achieved in 1959. The broad cultural change and innovation of the 1960s were expressed in music, racial equality, protests, big national goals, and more. In 1966, the credit union had an innovation of its own, buying and renovating a permanent location at 740 County Street for $60,000. Doors opened in 1967 with the credit union occupying half the building. Membership, deposits, and lending all experienced a steady upward climb, and by 1969, assets reached over $3.6 million. That year was the first time the credit union had its first full-time manager, Oliver Perry. The 1970s saw a mixed bag of events and national mood. There was the birth of the Green Movement, the resignation of a president, disco on the dance floor, recession, stagflation, and lines at the gas station. By 1970, the credit union boasted $4 million in assets and made loans to members totaling over $3.6 million. Innovations included financial education programs held at the credit union and the implementation of an electronic data processing system. At the end of the decade, assets topped $11 million and membership topped 5,500. Led in part by the groundswell of baby boomers in the midst of their careers, economic growth and prosperity typified the 1980s, although the recession of the late 70s lingered on. Like other institutions in the early 80s, the credit union offered an astounding 11% interest on money market accounts. In 1981, dividends of 12 to 21% were paid on the CDs of their day, all saver certificates. 1983 was the year of the credit union's first drive-up window. 1984 was the first year with today's business hours. 1986 was a year of 50s, 50th anniversary, and $50 million in assets. In 1987, the credit union became federally chartered and welcomed all who lived or worked in Bristol County. Despite a year of interest rate instability and a stock market crash, membership growth again demanded physical expansion. By the end of 1989, 740 County Street had a second floor, a second drive-up window, an ATM, and $60 million in assets. In the 1990s, Americans witnessed shock and awe on TV. Computers around the nation were tuning in to the infant World Wide Web. Technology was exploding. New ways of communicating were changing everything. A major challenge, which affected all credit unions, came from the federal government and banking industry, who wanted, among other things, to do away with credit unions' tax-exempt status. 1991 was a showdown year, and credit unions across the country organized Operation Grassroots, a lobbying campaign that turned back the effort to change the credit union purpose and mission. Despite the bumps, the decade for the credit union was a period of steady growth, supported by the significant physical and systems infrastructure already in place. One date that will live in infamy happened in 1941. Another jolted the nation in 2001. Two wars tested our limits. The speed of change in the 21st century's first decade was breathtaking. A global economy and new powerhouse nations became reality. Digital technology finally caused sea changes in how we communicate and do business. The Great Recession took hold. The credit union was up to the change and the challenges. The establishment of Reach Out re-energized the credit union's community support efforts. Always prudent lending practices ensured a strong mortgage portfolio, as well as a strong financial institution for all members, even as the national mortgage crisis took its toll. Online banking gave members new levels of convenience. Remodeling and expansion of drive-up service, including a new drive-up ATM and expanded parking, again boosted the service experience for growing numbers of members. An ongoing teen and tween campaign increased youth membership by nearly 800 by the end of the decade. At the end of 2010, assets reached $146 million, the highest ever. Regulators and independent rating agencies confirmed the credit union's strength and safety. The Somerset Federal Credit Union was about to turn 75, strong in finances, in membership, and in community service, all built on the original foundational philosophy of people helping people. 75 years of success have set the stage for the next 75 years.
Hi, I'm Joyce Magno, President and CEO of your credit union. I hope you enjoyed our video, but the most important part is our members, so take a look.
I can remember my first loan with the credit union, and it was with Oliver. It was a handshake. We'll sign the papers later. That was Oliver Perry. Couldn't take it away from him. He was a man of his word. But without the credit union, I don't think I or hundreds of people would have been able to have what we have today. God bless the credit union.
Well, several years back, I was interested in buying, income properties during the whole time where, properties were foreclosing and there were some good deals out there. And I didn't really know much about how I could go about doing this, so I started looking into it and realized that I needed a financial institution to help me with this. To date, 3 homes in the past 3 years, 2 of them multifamilies through Somerset Credit Union, which I will continue to do that type of purchase through Somerset, and a single family home. But I really have a comfort with Somerset from the past experience I've had with them. They've made it seamless and easy.
I'd say probably every 2 years, new car loan. My mom and dad have done business here for years, and Dad basically said when I was a teenager, that's the place to go, Somerset Credit Union. Don't go anywhere else, they'll really take care of you. My daughter's here now, and she's really happy, and it's just a great place to do business. I wouldn't do business anywhere else.
On 9/11, I had a cerebral hemorrhage at the courthouse, and I started losing my eyesight, my hearing, and I was out of work for 4 months. I ended up going to Beth Israel, and everything's worked out really great. So my wife gives me a check and she makes it out to me. And I said, okay, go and cash it. So I come in, the girls were so great. They were great to me because they hadn't seen me so long, and they all came up to me. So I put the check down, the girls paid. They look, Bobby, you have to sign the check. I said, oh, no problem. I grabbed the pen where they had the pens, and I started laughing. And they said, what's the matter? What's so funny? I says, hey, I can't spell my name. And because of the hemorrhage and everything, it took a long time before I could. But the girls went through the, really it's a hassle for them because they had to talk me through it. But they were great. They took a piece of paper, they walked in, and they letter by letter, they had me write it down on a piece of paper. They flipped the check over. They said, now look at that. Look, you did it. Now put it here. So that's how I started writing again, and they were part of it. The girls were a part of it, and they were great to me.
This is like home. This is family. This is not just a bank. It's not an institution.
My whole family has been members of the credit union for many, many years. It started with my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mother, my aunts and uncles, and so when my car was breaking down, I really needed to get a loan. So I came to the credit union and they made it very easy. I felt comfortable coming to the credit union because I'm familiar with the people who work here. I've been coming here for years and years.
This is the card that the credit union helped me get. Thank you.
Well, the first loan I got, it was in 1962, and I got $500 to finance a job. And I went into the credit union one Friday night. In those days, Oliver was only there on Friday nights. That was his time to work, for the most part. And I said to him, I need a loan. He said, how much would you like? I said, $500. And he said to me, sign here, here, and here. And he made the check out, and I walked out with the money. And that was my first loan at the credit union. I've had many loans since then and 2 or 3 mortgages. That's how we did it. He had a trust. He would trust people, and people trusted him. It was a trust that wouldn't quit.
I hope you enjoyed our video, and I would like to thank you for being a member of the Somerset Federal Credit Union.